up, guys? Well, we're back in the shop, and we've got something new to bring you today. We have a VEPR 12. I figured, you know, it's an 8K platform, so what the heck? Haven't had one in a while, and they're tons of fun. Figured we'd get this thing up and running. Most of what I'm going to be shooting is target loads out of this, and I'd like to be able to shoot the Federal bulk pack from Walmart. They make it in 7.5 and 8 shot. I think it's ounce and an eighth 3 dram loads. 3 1/4 dram is pretty much the baseline. What people say these things will run out of the box. I'd like to get down to 3, 2 3/4 would be great too, but that might be wishful thinking. Whole mission here is to get this thing to run those 3 dram loads. So, without further ado, let's take this out and see what we can do. Okay guys, so we got our slugs loaded up here in our C-Spec mags, and let's see how they run. Well, she ran all of them, and the bolt hold open stayed open, even when you take the mag out. So that's some good news. Let's try the next one. Next one we're going to try here are these Federal game loads, 2 3/4 inch, 1 ounce a shot, 7.5, and they're 3 1/4 dram and rated at 1290 feet per second. So we'll see how these run. All right, so we've got them loaded up. Let's give 3 1/4 dram a try. Well, a couple failures to feed there, or failures to eject, I should say. Well, I had 5 of those left, so figured we'd try the factory 5-round mag. Those seem to go okay. Kind of weak on the ejection, but we'll keep trying. Well, we've got some Winchester Super Target I bought here. These are probably weaker, and reports are that some of the Winchester, or all of it, just doesn't feed right, namely the Universal, but this is their Super X Target. It's rated at 3 drams. Let's see how this runs. as expected, garbage. We're gonna try some of those Winchester in the factory mag. The ones that wouldn't cycle at all in the leather mag cycle perfectly in here. Well, this is what a lot of people recommend, this Federal bulk pack field and target. 12 gauge, 3 dram, ounce and an eighth, 7.5 shot, feet per second, 1200. So we'll see. It's about 20 bucks for 100 of these. Hopefully they run. We'll see. Well, guys, that trip wasn't the success I was hoping it would be, but hey, we learned something, right? Even though we did a little prior slicking, it just wasn't enough to get the gun to where I wanted it. So let me show you first what we had done before we went out there. Before we went out there, of course, we put the brake on. And by the way, I have footage of with and without the brake, and frankly, it shot better with the brake, which I kind of figured it would probably give it a little back pressure. On the carrier, really all we did was smooth up the bottom that comes into contact with the hammer. So we smoothed that up. I also noticed I love to grip on the mag. You know, if I'm shooting in competition, of course, I'm gripping further out. But if I put extra pressure on that, it would bind this. And it was binding right on these side rails. So I polished those two, polished in between a little bit, and brought the side up a little here. I thought maybe if it was dragging on the side cover. Excuse me, guys, I'm getting sick. Anyhow. Just did our usual polish job on the carrier itself. The bolt we left alone. There's just now starting to show some wear marks, and there might be some spots that I touch up a hair. But remember, guys, you want to stay away from the locking lugs on this thing, and also the other lug on it too. You don't want to mess with those. Could I polish up the stem and a few other things? Maybe, and I see some wear marks here that maybe I could polish in a little bit and smooth it up, sure, but I don't think that's your major sticking point. As far as the hammer goes, let me see if I can show you here. We just polished the face. We did a major reprofiling on it. It basically had the shape of a G2, a Tapco G2, where it's got the two little humps. We got rid of those completely. And I've done these before, and basically what I did, God, I wish I could, without taking it all apart, I really flattened that thing out. I mean, I brought it down. And that's basically all we did before we brought it out there. So, got back, looked at some of the video, and yeah, I could do a little more slick it up. I could do the rails and whatnot, which I'm going to do either way. But you know what? I wanted this gun 100% reliable with that stuff. So here's what we did. We came up with some solutions. Number one, your recoil assembly. Now this is already changed over. We went to a JTE guide rod system. guide rod and the centerpiece here too. Your stock system, what that looks like, it's two pieces. In this part here, with the little notch in it here, that's what's locked into your holder in the back. It's pinned in. And your springs are captured. They don't come off on the stock unit. So I could have just replaced the spring, but what happens with this type of guide rod is if it's off in any way, which we know AKs are never off, right? As it slides, it can bind. Look at that, just a little bend and it ain't moving, you know? So if it's off in the least bit, it can bind. And the tolerances aren't that great, you know? So what we did was we got this GTE guide rod. You knock the pin out, put the new one in, drive the pin back in, okay? Then we kept the stock rear spring, and it just goes over it like that. But then to replace the second part of that guide rod, we went to this, this is by JTE2, this Delrin nylon whatever guide rod. So when it's in the gun, that's sitting like that, and it's much smoother, and it can't bind no matter what you do. And then the Carolina Shooter Systems light spring in front. So that was the first, and you can still use your dust cover too. It's a little harder to put in. You have to kind of guide it till it gets in there, but other than that, you know, field stripping it and all, it's all the same. Next thing we did, I told you we had a puck instead of a piston. So here's your carrier, your rod, and it looks like the remnants of a piston here, but all there is this push rod. There's a hook in it, and I'll tell you what that's for in a second. Here is the standard puck, okay? And it's essentially a piston, right? So that's sliding back and forth. The rod comes in, recoil, pushes the rod back, and that's that. So we went to, this is a Korodish out of Russia. It's titanium. And the biggest difference you'll see, here's the stock one, here's the Korodish. It's about half the length, okay? So what that does is it gives it that much more travel, that much more push to get that rod going. Plus it's a lot lighter and it's titanium. This is regular old steel. I told you about the hook on the carrier. What that hook is for is when that piston's in there and you got all kinds of carbon buildup and whatnot, these things can get stuck in there pretty good. So that hook, when after you field strip it, you take this and it hooks in there and you can pull it out of the gas block. That's the one thing I don't like about this Korodish. There is a slight cutout in there to maybe get something in there, but you can't, it's hard to get anything in there. So here's a little tip for you if you use those. This is out of a blind bearing puller set. And what you can do is put that up in there, crank this in, it shoves these out, grabs it, and you can pull it out of there. And that's only when carbon's built up in there. And frankly, when you're field stripping and cleaning them, guys, I wouldn't clean the carbon off that puck until you absolutely had to, or it was getting really bad. They run better when they're more carboned up. I mean, obviously there's a top end to that, but they run better when they're carboned up. They seal better, okay? So you don't want to clean those things perfectly every time. I only clean these to show you for the video. Otherwise, I'd probably leave them a little crudded up. Actually, the gas block right now, if I put them in there, they stick when they get all the way forward because there's some carbon buildup in there, but I'm going to leave it alone for right now. And the third thing I was going to tell you was the spring we replaced, the performance spring. Seems to me too, looking at the front spring and the back spring, that both are the same spring from the factory. Maybe somebody can confirm that for me. I'm not sure on that one. We ordered those parts, and just for giggles, because 10 rounders are fun, but 12 rounders are more fun. Plus, I kind of wanted to confirm these SGM tactical mags. I got a 12 rounder, and I had no high expectations of these things running any good. But it kind of intrigued me, because my thought was that the Parkerization was maybe, because we're talking, you know, stacking tolerances kind of here, you know, with these things. Every little bit of friction adds up, and those mags are going to run in, and I'll tell you what happened here in a minute. But anyhow, I got this, and you'll see in the video about this thing. Frankly, I don't know what everybody's talking about. These things run magnificently, you'll see. And 12 rounds just seems so much better than 10. And that extra 2 rounds is just bam, 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 bam. It's nice, and it'll maybe save me a mag change here and there. So this was kind of neat. Anyways, those were the changes we made. And then we headed back out to the range this morning, and I'll show you what happened. All right, we're gonna run them all here with the Federal Bulk. VEPR. So guys, what'd you think of that? Pretty slick, huh? Yeah, that thing was working pretty smooth. I gotta say, these SGM mags are pretty cool. That 12 rounder looks awesome. There is a 12 rounder coming out from CSS, so definitely going to be getting some of those. But that's about it. Everything ran phenomenal. If you guys can get your hands on one, get your hands on one. You might get one out of the box, runs great. If not, it's not a big deal to get them up and running, and you learn a lot about the gun and you have fun. Great stuff. Any questions, anything we can answer for you, help you along with your VEPR, comment below. And as always, please subscribe. We appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. From Rockford Ordnance, we're out.